recording just for you to go back and kind of review later. Hannah, that means I also didn't send you your recording, so I'll make sure I've done that as well, so that you can have that before we meet again next week. Barb, glad you're joining us. I just, in preparation for tonight, I was hopeful that you had had a chance to go through the emotional questionnaires at the back of Rhonda Favano's book, all about your emotional realm and kind of how you would kind of score yourself, where you sort of saw your strengths and your weaknesses, where some maybe emotions flared for you and you noticed kind of a pattern of things. One that was super interesting to me, and then if you want to share, you're welcome to, but one of the ones that was super interesting to me was emotional questionnaire number 6. And these were things like, and I did screenshot these for the Aroma Freedom group. So you can, if you don't have the book, you can use the post about tonight's event, tonight's workshop, to review these emotional questionnaires. She got them from Dr. J. P. Vanden Heuvel, who wrote the questionnaires. And so she made some minor adjustments to them, but otherwise they stand alone as sections of little questions. So emotional questionnaire number 6 says, do you feel like you are being choked? Do you feel like you have something to say but are not saying it or expressing it? Do you have trouble accepting life as it is? Do you feel separate, resulting in a reduction of energy? And when I first read the first question, I immediately reverted back to when I was married the first time and what a difficult place and time that was for me. Our communication continues to be sort of a challenge and a struggle, and it does create that feeling of just non-expression. Are you headed out? Oh. So I really want to just underscore, like, maybe this isn't a front runner for you right now. Maybe this is, emotional questionnaire number 6, but it was one of those things where I was able to look at it and look at the feelings that went along with it, like constraint, loneliness, and trouble accepting life, and then and then just kind of evaluate, like, I'm in a pretty good spot 12 years later, kind of healed, or, more closer to the end of that healing journey. So I was interested that the oil blend that was recommended was eucalyptus globulus. Well, the other thing it made me think about is maybe this is something that's going on for a lot of you. And these are a couple of resources that I have found to be super helpful. This one's called Louise Hay, Heal Your Body. And I don't know, I think I got this one like on eBay or in a used bookstore. There may be a version of this that's available on Amazon these days, but I'm not sure. This is old school. I do have her updated version of You Can Heal Your Life. But Louise Hay was a powerful, wise woman who really believed our thoughts, and specifically negative toxic thoughts, could really impact our physical health. So affirmations were her go-to. So one of the things I love about Heal Your Body is when you are having like a sore throat, you can look up the word throat. There's all sorts of, it's written like a chart. So I'll just show you, really, it's a chart of things. So pink eye, for example, anger and frustration, not wanting to see. And then the affirmation that goes with it is, I release the need to be right. I am at peace. I love and approve of myself. So the affirmations are built in. If you're experiencing chronic pink eye, for example, that was my issue when I first started teaching. Those are really tough things for me, because I was around a lot of germs from the students, but also the students would come in with sore throats and strep and things like that, and I would end up with pink eye. So what was it that I was not wanting to see, or why was I feeling angry and frustrated? What were the emotions that were underneath that physiological response? Just super, super curious. But I was headed to sore throat, so let me go back there. So if I go to throat, in general, just the throat, which a lot of women have issues with their thyroid, right, in this area. So more kind of puffiness or swelling or things happen here in our nodules. The throat is an avenue of expression. It's a channel of creativity. So I open my heart and sing the joys of love is an affirmation that goes along with that. So if you are feeling stifled or suppressed in any way, an affirmation to go for that or go in place of that is, I open my heart and sing the joys of love. And if you're having a problem like a sore throat, the issue could be the inability to speak up for oneself, swallowed anger, stifled creativity, or refusal to change. And yes, there is always a biological reason that something manifests there, but that doesn't mean it's the only thing that's going on, right? So to really examine sort of the physical symptom, the emotional cause, and then the affirmation that goes with that is, it's okay to make noise. I express myself freely and joyously. I speak up for myself with ease. I express my creativity. I am willing to change. Can you think of other examples of chronic kind of problems that you have encountered that may have an emotional connection? Like as you went through the emotional questionnaire, did any of that resonate with you tonight? Does the throat one resonate with you? Yay or nay? Not as much. And it's totally fine if you don't want to share out loud. Are there other manifestations within your body, chronic headaches or migraines or chronic pain anywhere that you could think that it may have something to do with your emotional state? Are there any?
I think tension.
Tension. Yeah, say more about that, Barb.
Yeah. Really, at work and stuff, it's a little crazy, and just the tension of it, you just kind of get that kind of, it's almost feels like your head starts to lock.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
tight sometimes.
Yeah. And just aware that it's not a full-on headache or a migraine or something that necessarily, can be taken care of with Tylenol. It's just that, like, it's just like a throbbing or just an awareness that it's really pushing on you. Yeah. So stress related for you?
Yeah.
Probably. Okay. Let's look up headache, shall we? Let's see what Louise Hay has to say about that. I kind of love this. Louise Hay says, for a regular headache, invalidating yourself and being self-critical. Does that resonate at all with your work? Probably wanting to perform well and maybe lacking in some of that, or having your own sense of perfection associated with that. And so and the affirmation that goes with that is, I love and approve of myself. I see myself and what I do with eyes of love. I am safe. I am safe. And then migraines. Do any of you suffer with migraines or know people who do? That hasn't been my issue either, thankfully. But I have friends who suffer with migraines. And just in case anybody's watching that's curious about this, again, this is from the Louise Hay Heal Your Body book. She writes, it's a dislike of being driven. So ambitious, not like being driven around, like driven. Resisting the flow of life. I relax into the flow of life and let life provide all that I need easily and comfortably. And then the second, more simple affirmation is, life is for me. Life is for me. Interesting, right? It's another way that our emotions show up in our bodies. And this actual longer book has practices and things like that. I would say it's going into like obviously more depth than conquering toxic emotions. After you've sort of established your ground, kind of your not ground rules, but your baseline for where you're at and what you're hoping to heal or change. Were there any sections of the emotional questionnaires that stood out to you, that concerned you, that surprised you? Anything that you didn't know before going through these?
Well, I liked how it helps you drill down to more of what your problem is.
Yeah,
Right?
it might be some of those root emotions.
Yep.
Yep. Did a few kind of rise to the surface for you? Were you able to like narrow down a few?
Yeah, I was looking at 7.
Mm-hmm.
And now you think I'll find the other one? I don't remember the number.
Would you say frankincense is one of your favorite oils?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. I noticed
I
I've been
just ordered
putting
the
it.
sacred frankincense.
Yeah, it's slightly different, a little more woodsy, I think, the sacred is than the Boswellia carteri. But I've had a like a mole on top of my head. I had Jerry look at it last week. I'm like, what is this on my head? And so I've been anointing myself with frankincense, like rubbing frankincense into it, like daily since then. And I just love the feeling of peace that comes over me when I do that. Like, yes, I'm doing something to like, and the mole is reducing, to be really honest with you, but I love the just feeling of peace that sort of washes over me when I put it on my crown. It's just such a kind of release for me. So with that number 7, being able to not have difficulty to concentrate, right? Like really be focused, not feel overstimulated or hyperactive, being able to just sort of ground into, like, frankincense is a pretty great one for that. I thought that was a great oil. And then what was the other one, Barb?
16.
Yeah. Yeah, same. How funny that it's myrrh too, right? Frankincense and myrrh
Yep.
are the 2 recommended
Yep.
oils. I love it. I love it.
I did the whole dang book. Like, I'm like, oh, I wrote them down. I'm like, I literally wrote down almost all.
So one of the ways you could narrow it down is to go back through and circle the ones, rank them 1 to 10, right? Like that, like get like, so that then it doesn't feel so overwhelming. Cause I think what could happen is if all of them feel like, I too had an element of each of them, but they were further along. Like the one I shared about with the throat was further along the healing process. So I was able to kind of move that down on the priority list. But what would be the top 10 or the top 3 triggers that you notice when you look at the collections again? Would that help a little bit?
That would help. So I was like, I apply for all of these. Like,
That's one serious roller right there. All the oils in it. Yeah, seriously. The number 18 was tough for me as well. Like I feel silly about mirror work. That's something that Louise Hay has taught as well. And we do it with affirmations, right? In our Aroma Freedom, to stand with our power pose and gaze at ourselves and say an affirmation over and over again. But to say, hey, Angela, I love you, just feels like silly and, like irrelevant. It feels a little, I don't know, just silly, for lack of a better word. So how do you give, and the fact that the suggested oil was oregano, I was like, ooh, I don't know if I could smell oregano and feel better about saying, hey, Angela, I love you. My mom used to joke at when we would have in-person classes specifically for business in Young Living, she would do a thumbs up into the mirror and she'd say, "Looking good, Layman." And then we'd all do it back to her with our name, like, "Looking good, Barb, looking good, Hannah, looking good, April." Like, and it was always fun and everyone giggled about it and still remember it. Like, they still remember that activity. And I would go home and just be like, so embarrassed, like, does she really say that? And she does. There's so much of "looking good, Layman." So today when she was with my brother, she's been having some difficulty walking. And so trying to encourage her to go a little bit further every day. It's like, "You go, girl," is our, kind of our "looking good, Layman" sort of encouragement to her. But I never dreamed about using oregano because it's such a powerful, potent oil. It doesn't necessarily evoke sense of like confidence to me, but it does. I do like that it might be important to put it into an oil that's super flowery to sort of help a deeper sense. So it says, "Give synergy to other oils for use in blends." So that was cool. Any other ones that you got stuck on, or were like, "I don't know about this one," questions that you came across? I will say, today in particular, as I was preparing for tonight, I've been diffusing a lot of vetiver, and that's not an oil that I use very often, but somebody mentioned it this weekend at the retreat we were at. She uses a blend of frankincense, vetiver, and copaiba for inflammation. So she used to work as a hairdresser, and so carpal tunnel and hands and arms and would be really sore. And so she uses those oils in a capsule and recommends those to people who suffer with that. And I was like, gosh, I haven't gotten vetiver out for a long time. So I was curious when I was reading about this, that in let's see, in the balancing of the energy centers, and we talked about this last week, the chakras that that have been around for a long time, the 7 centers that are located on the body. Vetiver is a balancing oil for the root chakra. So being able to use vetiver to represent our foundation and feeling of being grounded and secure, that's been a really nice aroma today for the home, and just kind of the uncentered feelings that I've been having. It's really worked out well. And then that brought me to another book to tell you about. And if you want a link to this, there's a buy one, get one free going on. So I'll post it up in the group. But this is called Aroma Yoga. I have probably the very first one that was ever made. The author is Tracy Griffiths, and she actually commented. We were talking about chakras in one of the groups I'm in, and somebody said, "I remember that Aroma Yoga book that Tracy wrote," and she popped on there and said that she's doing a buy one get one right now. But she goes into poses and meditations and affirmations to use for different parts of your energy center. So it's more in depth. If that was something that you enjoy about the book, or about what we're going to do next with the clearing that we're going to talk about for next week, this would be a really good one to. This would be a really good kind of handy guide, especially if you're into yoga and things like that. She talks about how in order for animals in the wild to survive, they depend on their sense of smell to find food, recognize their prey, and sense their predators. For humans, our sense of smell is our strongest and first developed sense. It's quicker than our sense of hearing and our sense of sight. The sense of smell also correlates to our all-powerful emotional guidance system. So that's why paying attention to the oils that you're using and using them with intention really does shift the emotional response that you're having to something. So cypress was another one that she recommended for root chakra work. Vetiver, grounding is a blend. Valor and abundance are also blends from Young Living. But figuring out how to kind of release your feelings of fear, ground yourself, surrender to the pull of gravity. These were all words that she uses in her meditation and affirmation. So just a really another great resource as you're diving into this even more. If you're already doing some sort of stretching program or yoga, this is a great resource to check out as well. Okay, all right, let's talk a little bit about where we're headed for next week so that you can kind of prepare, because there's a lot. The reason we wanted to dive into all of the emotional questionnaires for this week is because next week we're wrapping. Like this will be our 4th week of study, and then the week after I'll be leading a totally different 3-day mini series on stress and the holidays. And so there's lots of different techniques that she recommends in the table of contents between pages 38 through 62. And those are all of the different techniques we're going to talk a little bit about now. And then if you want to play with any of those between now and next week, I know you all are familiar with how Aroma Freedom works. She doesn't name it specifically in her lineup, but there are other things on here like Reflexology and Vitaflex, as well as some oil blends based on what you learned this week in your emotional questionnaires, that you might pull out some different oils to use for some of your own emotional work. So, and then I had a couple resources that I wanted to share from the workbook as well. So turn with me to page 38. And if you don't have the book, that's okay. I'm just going to read a little bit. She says, as we have established, essential oils are wonderful tools to assist in the clearing process. They tend to bring about results at an astounding rate. When utilizing essential oils, it is a good idea to begin slowly so as not to bring on detoxification too quickly. If at any time you feel overly emotional, it says reduce both the amount of oil you are using and the frequency of use. Once you begin to level off again, gradually increase your essential oil use. And I think this is really important. In the same way that after a massage, that you've moved the cells around in your body during a massage, or somebody has changed sort of the makeup of your body based on the massage, you have been shifting the internal work, right? The internal emotions. And so detoxing is real. Drinking plenty of water, getting enough rest, making sure that, like she said, that you reduce the amount of oil or the frequency you're using it. Switching it up is really important. Maybe you take a break for a day or two and you keep, stay away from it all. Maybe you just dilute more, like the vetiver that I was using in my home today. I ended up putting it into in a diffuser balm, but I'll skip that the next few days. Like, I feel like it's done its job for this, for this time of like being centered and grounded. And now I'll switch to something else tomorrow, probably one of the fall holiday collection oil blends, because I just think it's just such a good time to welcome that. But how are you approaching the process of evaluating your emotions, taking stock and audit of how you're doing with those from the questionnaire, but then also beginning the process of changing them? If they aren't serving you anymore, then maybe it's time to let them go, or time to reshift or reshape how you are approaching the same situation, because we all know the definition of insanity. When you keep on doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, that's insanity. So if you want a different outcome, what are you going to do differently to bring it about? So I love her 5 summary pieces on page 39. She says, do not fear the process. She says, forgive yourself. She says, love yourself. Do not judge yourself or others in the process, and allow yourself grace. Allow yourself grace, and do not think that you can release every negative thought, every toxic emotion, and every hurtful event from your life during one emotional release. It took a lifetime to accumulate these emotions in your body, and it may take several emotional detoxes before you feel totally free. So in every experience, no matter how painful or tragic, there's always a lesson. Train yourself to see the lesson. A Buddhist monk teacher named Pema Chodron once said that you'll keep on getting the same lesson until you've learned it. So if you find yourself kind of repeating the cycle, the same thing over and over again, and like, oh, I should have learned that the first time, or it shows up and manifests differently, it could be that you're still embracing something that you're trying to learn, either something that happened in your lifetime, or I'm a big believer in the fact that somehow we're all connected generationally as well. So it could be trauma from a great grandmother that's still kind of making its way through the lineage of your psyche, and you're now called to use the tools and resources you have to make that right again and to make that better. So yeah, so again, on page 40, she gives tips for a successful emotional detox. I love going along with this on page 73 and 74 of the workbook. There are positive action steps that can be taken. So how to enhance your day, because again, and this is something I mentioned last week, you're taking a scab off, right? You're taking an almost healed wound and you're messing with it. You're picking at it, you're scratching the edges, you're covering it up with a Band-Aid again when it starts to seep, right? And then you're opening it again and you're cleaning it, and you're putting salve on it to make it heal. You're taking care of it so that it doesn't leave a scar. Like the analogy works really well with this as well. So how is it that you can also take positive action steps when sort of detoxing as well? So she gives examples like stop multitasking and savor the task at hand, encourage someone else, bake cookies and take to friends that don't bake anymore, or anybody who doesn't bake, right? Friends or strangers. Turn off your phone for an hour. Volunteer at a homeless shelter. Send coloring books and crayons to a school or to an after-school program that you know about. Bring the crossing guard a cup of coffee. Call your grandparents if they're still with us on the earth. Have coffee with a friend. Tell someone all the things you love about them. Run an errand for someone, and listen to your favorite music for just 15 minutes. That's been something I've inserted into my day recently, is I just ask Alexa to turn on my favorite radio station in the morning. And that's just a good way for me to sort of reset and kind of be prepared for what the day brings. And it's just playing in the background. It's not that I'm like drowning out all the other sounds in the home, but it's just kind of just sort of a quiet thing that I play, as opposed to the news, because I don't want to wake up to the news, y'all. When I go to the gym and they have the news blaring on the screens, I have to physically like distract myself to not pay attention to all this flashy signs and terrible news that's out there. So thinking about things that you can do to take positive action steps in the middle of your work, I think is a really important thing. Okay, let me go over here. Yeah, that's good. That's good insight. Just thinking of using the oils daily when you haven't been used to using them in a while. So taking a break, for sure. I think that's a really good thing, or diluting them more. So, instead of putting 5 drops into a diffuser, put 1 drop into the diffuser, and just make it more subtle in your life. And yes, don't apply so often. Take a break and just focus on, I know some of you are doing the energy challenge as well. So just focus on like what that is doing to your body and system as well. It could be a combination. And so why not take out one of the elements that could be making you feel kind of nauseous or feeling sort of, sort of extra emotional, to just be able to focus on one thing at a time. That was one of the things on the emotional questionnaire that I found really important, was she talked about, are you able to embrace the moment, or do you distract yourself? That was one of the things that kept coming up for me in different areas. So it was uncanny that today was a day that I chose to diffuse vetiver, having not done that for a long time, just to help ground and center. So right now my diffuser is vetiver, cedarwood, lavender, and stress away. So all 4 of those oils together, but really all I can smell is the vetiver. It stands out the most. Yeah. So Hannah, the energy challenge is something that so Young Living has oils, but they also have supplements and other products. And so we made a challenge to our customers and brand partners to take 3 products every day for 14 days and see if they notice a difference. So, and it's interesting, we're doing this because I've had 2 testimonials. One was from somebody who said, I have way more energy than I did 3 days ago when I started. She's going to start taking her Super B in the afternoon, though. It's a B complex, that's really, really powerful. And in the morning, it just kind of doesn't really sit well in her stomach. And I told her it doesn't for me either. So I take mine in the afternoon, just FYI. And then the second, and so she said, but she's like, I'm not like, it's working. So I want to take it. I just want to do it in the afternoon. And then my daughter is not doing the energy challenge. In fact, she has a box of Ningxia sitting at her college mailroom that she has not gone to pick up yet, ironically enough. But she said she stopped eating sugar, refined sugar. She's still eating fruit sugar this week, but she's made a conscious decision not to have candy and ice cream. She was eating fudgesicles for breakfast last week, apparently. I didn't know this. Those are the joys of college, I suppose. So she's like, I'm not eating fudgesicles for breakfast anymore, Mom. And I was like, good. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And she's like, and I noticed that I feel better. Like, no way. That's crazy. You feel better? It's so nuts. Yeah. So little baby steps. Maybe by the end of the week, she'll go pick up her Ningxia Red. Okay, so let's talk about what you're going to read this week about reflexology and putting oils on your feet. You're going to read a little bit about auricular acupuncture. So that is using the pressure points in your ears to stimulate response. I don't remember which person on Instagram talked about this, but y'all know about the vagus nerve and the idea that we're in fight or flight a lot. And so a way to calm your vagus nerve is to take your index finger just on the inside of your ear, and just in the beginning, the opening part of your ear tube. I don't know the words. If you just massage in there, I'm not putting any oils. I'm not talking about any oils, but if you find yourself getting anxious, this is a good place to massage right there to help bring about calm again, so that your body stops over revving. And so I saw that I'd learned it when my son had multiple concussions and it was causing a lot of anxiety for him. He feels weird about putting his finger in his ear. Now he'll put AirPods in his ear, but he feels weird about putting his finger in his ear. But that's a way to sort of shift energy there as well. Oh yeah, that too. That's a good point. Yeah, and some people do that for migraines too, I think. Okay, then Vitaflex as well. I'm going to teach you really quickly Vitaflex on your hand. So you want to have short fingernails. You stand your fingers up on end. So that's why you don't want them kind of pushed it, and you're going to roll from the tips of your fingers. You're going to roll all the way to your second knuckle. That's called Vitaflex. And the way it works on your feet is that, and I'm doing it here. The way it works on your feet or on somebody's, when you're doing this with what's called raindrop technique, is you put your fingers on your right hand on your left foot. I'm putting my right hand on my left arm, and you're just going to roll, and you just slowly move See, I just shift my hands just a little bit up, my fingers. And when you do that inside your, the arch line of your foot, that stimulates your foot to, that stimulates the nerves in your foot. And it helps your emotional balance, for lack of a better word. Just a quick aside story. When I was in Ecuador a few years ago, I don't do great with needles, and I was getting an IV of ledum, which is an essential oil that they were putting in intravenously. And I passed out. And pretty soon, Gary Young's cousin was kneeling in front of me doing Vitaflex with the oil blend Valor on my feet, because I needed to get my blood pressure back up, and that was helping. So she was aiding in that. So if you want to use Vitaflex on your feet, it's a great way to put some oils on your finger and then just spread them.
Do you do that on your foot? Like on the sorry, I'm just confused a little bit. You put on the very top or like on the arch?
Here.
Okay.
Inside.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. When she describes it here, it says the technique is thought to have originated in Tibet thousands of years ago, long before the practice of acupuncture. She said, but you use the pads and nails of the finger in a rolling motion to move energy through the body via the reflex points. So the reflex points are located, if you look on page 43, mostly on that inside part of your foot. And you can look up reflexology foot charts like this online as well. So when you use your Vitaflex along this inner part, when you use this rolling technique, it helps stimulate the inner part of your foot. So that's one way to get essential oils on your body. And April too reduces the scent. Sometimes you've just overpowered your whole system with extra scent. So just doing it on your feet might be a way to break from that as well. Let's see. Yeah, great resources in here as well. And then she also throws in a little section on emotions, oils, and affirmations. So again, as you reference back to your emotional questionnaires, if you want to bring about, say, more clarity in your life, the affirmation is, I am clear-headed, I understand, I know. And then the oil blends are listed there that you can access for those as well. And then last but not least, you can keep reading. She talks about what's called the emotional clearing technique. And in the workbook on page 36, she gives you a couple pages of a worksheet that you can record those emotions that you've chosen to clear. So to your point earlier, Hannah, of like, oh my gosh, so many came up, where do I start? I think there are 6 spaces, but I would just do a 2 maybe to get yourself started, because then she has you record the emotions you've chosen to clear, what oils and affirmations you're using, and then tracking your progress, and then rewarding yourself. I have trouble with the word eliminated. Can I be free of anger for the rest of my life? No, I'm not eliminating anger. I'm not eliminating fear. I am reducing it. I am conquering it. I am stronger. I am responsive to it. I don't have to be reactionary, but I can't eliminate it. That's a little strong for me personally. But she says, but look for shifts, look for ways like, I'm so glad I did this instead of this time. So I think that's the point that she's trying to make there. And how are you going to reward yourself in that as well? And feel like, okay, I did this thing and now I'm good. Yeah. And this goes along with pages 59 through 64, which has some oil blend suggestions and things like that you can use as well. And that's what we're going to focus on for next week, is just try maybe one of the modalities, either, this whole like vagus nerve reducer, or something related to the auricular therapy. Maybe do some Vitaflex on your feet with an essential oil before bed to bring about better rest. To your point earlier, Barb, about the tension and sometimes feeling that in your head in your headspace, maybe bring that to mind. Like if the emotion is tension and you're going to consistently use peppermint, for example, what affirmation are you going to use with it? Like giving yourself grace at work maybe is part of that. So that you're kind of because you can't control what people do at work, but you can control your response to that. So it might be like being less of a perfectionist at work. So the affirmation might be like, I accept my work. I do my best at my work, or my best is good enough, or something that helps you feel confident in your contribution. And then play with that this week. Play with some of those ideas to help just sort of center and focus your goals. And then we'll meet next week to sort of see how it went, and then talk about what's next. Sound good? Thanks for joining tonight, y'all. It's good to see you.
Okay.
I'm glad we were able to be on Zoom together too. And I will get the recordings finished now. Yay. Go team. Bye, y'all.